Hi everyone, I'm Nadia, and in today's video my mom is making a beautiful resin beach clock. She'll be working on an MDF board, so the first step that she's doing is preparing the board for layers of resin. She's doing this by adding liquid latex near the edge and near the hole in the center. This will protect the bottom side from any drops of resin that leak over and prevent it from curing onto the MDF board. She uses a silicone makeup brush to help spread the liquid latex all the way to the edge. For this clock, she's going to be testing out using a printed photo as the background and as a way to add more depth. This is a photo that she took herself and she's printing it out on 2 separate pages. Then she cuts it to fit onto the round MDF board. As always, I'll have all of the products that you see in this video listed in my description, so if you're interested in giving this tutorial a try, be sure to check that out. She uses Mod Podge to stick the paper onto the MDF board. And also coats the top with Mod Podge to seal the paper. When you're putting resin over paper, sealing it is a very important step. While she's waiting for that Mod Podge to dry, she's gonna get a head start on her sand. And this is a cool way to get a dry sand look without even using resin. Instead, she'll be using wood glue and she pours some into a cup. She also adds in pouring medium and mixes those two together. Then she adds in her sand. And she uses her wooden stick to apply the sand onto the bottom area of the board. And now she'll be adding in her pebbles. She takes her collection of small sea glass and also adds that into the sand area, as well as some shells. Once that's all dry, she's ready to mix in her resin, and she's using craft resin. She's measuring equal parts of the part A and B and pours that into a larger cup. I'll have a 10% discount code linked in my description if you want to give craft resin a try. She mixes her resin well for several minutes and then separates it into smaller cups. The first pigment she's using is Just Resin's pigment paste in the shade Titanium White. Next, she adds in Just Resin's Blue Diamond. Always be sure to mix your pigment paste in the container before you add some into your cup of resin. Then she adds in Just Resin's Luster Powder Pigment in the shade Atlantis. And for anyone who's interested, I'll also have a discount code for Just Resin's pigments in my description. Next, she adds in Craft Resin's mica powder in the shade Lagoon. Once all of her pigments are mixed in and ready to use, she starts by pouring clear resin near the shoreline. Then pours on her pigmented resins, starting from lightest to darkest. And she uses her hand to blend out the colors. Sometimes it's easier to use your hands to blend out colors and also make sure that the resin has reached every area of your surface, especially when it's a larger piece. However, if you're going to be blending out your colors this way, be sure to wear nitrile gloves to properly protect your hands. She continues to experiment by adding in drops of clear resin, but also adds in more of her different pigmented resins and continues to blend that out. Since I previously mentioned the nitrile gloves, I also want to mention that you should always be wearing a respirator mask and work in a well-ventilated area. These are safety precautions for working with resin that you should not ignore. She uses a torch gun to pop any air bubbles, and always be careful that you're moving your torch gun very quickly so that you don't burn your resin. Now she's ready to add her white pigmented resin along the shoreline. She uses a heat gun to blow out the waves. She allows that layer to harden and comes back to do a second wave. A few days has passed, so she lightly sands the surface with some sandpaper. And this is just to strengthen the bond between the two layers of resin. Again, she mixes in her resin and adds in Just Resin's pigment paste in the shade Titanium White. And she pours on her clear resin up to the point where she wants to do her wave. Then she applies her white pigmented resin. Again, she uses a heat gun to blow out the wave. She wasn't happy with how the wave turned out, so she ended up wiping off all of that resin and redoing the wave. The new wave unfortunately wasn't filmed, but it's the same process as she did now. Once her layers of resin has hardened and she's ready to do a top coat, again several days have gone by, so she's sanding down her piece. She's using the sanding tool, which makes sanding super easy. She also poured some water on the surface, and this is to minimize the amount of dust that goes flying in the air. Because of this dust, you also want to be wearing your respirator mask while sanding your piece. Then she does her top coat, and again she's using Craft Resin. She leaves that to harden and comes back to remove the liquid latex. For easy removal, she heats up the area using a heat gun. Now, because the hole in the center got covered, she's drilling down that center area. And to allow the clock mechanism to fit in better, she's actually going to be drilling down the MDF board a little bit. So she takes her mechanism and with a marker outlines it. Now that that fits in there nicely, she's adding on her clock hands. And here's the final product. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. Follow me on my Instagram, Summer Girl Designs, and my mom's Instagram, Wild Heart Resin Art.